Okay, 30-second board time. Hot topics in the sport. JT, you wanted to tackle this one. The 250 West riders are now about to have a huge break, but they will not be resting on the couch, say you. Explain what happens during this time.
Yeah, this 6-week break is always an opportunity for these guys to get ahead of the game for pro motocross. And I think there's a misconception about, they're going to maybe, go to Mexico and take some time off. No, this is their opportunity to get some testing, get their base fitness level for pro motocross. So when we hit the track this May, they're going to be way ahead of, say, these East Coast guys. They're going to be racing Supercross all the way through the spring. So it's just the way the schedule typically sets up, but it does present a nice opportunity in the case you do have a 6-week break. And speaking of that pro motocross season we have coming up, that will kick off this May, and a lot of familiar venues that you're used to. We're going to kick off the series at Fox Raceway at Paula late May, and lots of questions we think we'll know, but we'll get a lot of answers there as well. But, a lot of these same rounds you'll see. We got a Hangtown, Millville in late July, but all the venues that you're hoping for, we're going to get those. Another great pro motocross championship. I'm very excited to see what happens in that 250 class as Hunter Lawrence moved into the 450, and can Jet Lawrence continue that dominance that we saw in 2023?
Yeah, I know it's tough for everyone looking out their window right now in about half of the country in February to picture the summertime outdoor motocross, but it's less than 100 days away. So time is ticking quickly. I want to transition into this one. Justin Barcia is doing great things off of the racetrack. He drove the Ecto Cruiser into opening ceremonies for Ghostbusters at Anaheim, and then he helped with a wedding proposal in the pits. This is wild. He actually in the autograph line. Some people like to do this on the racetrack. Look at that. He had it in the ring. Amazing, JT.
Yeah, this is awesome. I've actually done this myself with someone on track walk way back in Atlanta years ago. So I know this all too well, and all you're hoping and praying for is that she says yes, which obviously happened, you can see here. But what a great moment. And for people getting engaged at Supercross, that's incredible. So I don't know if this is how she exactly drew it up, but she seems awfully happy there. So good for them.
You had me excited there, JT. I didn't know you were the one handing the ring. I thought you actually did the proposal. No, you just helped. My point here is that Barcia is doing cool stuff off the track, but it's actually trending worse every week on it. What is going on here with Barcia?
Well, you have to wonder, he was the guy last year that couldn't stop talking about how much he loved his motorcycle. You flash forward, and we should know better. You flash forward to 2024, and now he's the guy that's really struggling, making some questionable posts on social media about the motorcycle. Now, what I'm interested in is, did they make him switch to the new chassis? I don't know that. We've heard that he is on the new, or I guess new to them, 48 millimeter forks that Cooper Webb was begging for last year. And it seemed like Aaron Plessinger and Chase Sexton both really like. So as is always with riders, preferences differ. And just because one guy really likes something and one dynamic on a motorcycle, you can bet that someone else on the same motorcycle hates it for that very reason.
Okay, who's next, JT? Explain this. So we thought Barcia might have been a contender to win a race this year. I think we're putting that one on ice, but there are some other guys certainly that could do it, considering we have 5 winners already, right?
Yeah, you have to think that Eli Tomac's going to find a way to get one of these things done. It's shocking, right? You can look at race 3 at Anaheim 2 and say, well, that was the flash. He can still do it. Jason Anderson, you see there, he probably should have been your winner at Anaheim 2, made mistakes, penalties, crashes, all those things. So it's crazy that we have this many winners this early into the season. I think it's probably kept Quentin Fowler up at nights so far. But this is what we want. This is what we want out of a championship. When the gate drops, we want to be guessing who's going to win the race. And there has never been a season like this where we have no idea what's going to happen when that gate does drop.
Speaking of proposals, I'm going to put a not so modest one here. Here's the real intriguing thing. I just know how these seasons usually go. It seems inevitable that Anderson and Tomac will win races and we'll get to 7. I'm going to say that won't happen. And the real question will be, which one of those doesn't? That's what's crazy. How well Anderson's riding and how established Tomac is. Is it possible we go through the rest of the year and neither or only one of them wins a race? I think it is. That'll be interesting to watch. And we can see that dynamic play out in 250 East, right? We entered in Detroit thinking so many riders could win, and then a first turn crash wipes out half a dozen of the potential winners. Now, we think all those guys are going to be healed up and back, but I mean, what data do we really have on 250 East right now?
Yeah, I think the parity in the 450 class will mirror what we're going to see in the 250 East because we didn't learn a lot, right? I feel like that Detroit was eerily similar to what I normally feel leaving Anaheim 1 in the 450 class because half of the field was laying in the first corner. You know, Hayden Deegan has now had 3 weeks to heal up that mystery wrist that we didn't know where its status was going into the first round. You think about Cameron McAdoo, he looked so great in his heat race and then had a first turn crash as well. So we're going to see a lot of those stars back into the mix and guys that were kind of way back. We didn't really get to talk about them during the main event because they had gone down. This is their opportunity to kind of right the ship and get back into the championship. When you think about those 250 East guys, Austin Faulkner picks up a win, and you know what that means, Weege. He has now guaranteed him a spot into those SMX playoffs, and it feels like it's so far away going into September, but it's really not. You think about these winners, they're already in. Their fate is sealed. They're going to get a chance to go back and battle. And you remember what it felt like at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum as Hayden Deegan took the inaugural championship there. But what a nice feeling for them. Austin Faulkner was on the outside looking in last year, not this year. 450 class as well. These guys have already found their way in to that championship playoff. Now, all we need is for Phil Nicoletti to jump onto a 450 and go out and win a 450 main event, and he'll find his way into this class as well. But it is a huge deal. Last year, we watched as that all unfolded. We weren't sure how that was going to play out, but now we know. You have to start thinking about this so early and how that positioning is going to play out all the way into September.
Honestly, I got so deep in the trenches in Supercross, I'd forgotten that rule. I'd forgotten that winning a race gives you an automatic bid into the playoffs. And it looks like any of those guys we just showed, all 10 of them, well, they're going to make it anyway, right? This sport is weird. This sport is fickle. Faulkner could tell you that last year. Having a guaranteed spot goes a long way. And along those lines, here's Chase Sexton, who we were talking about really playing the consistency card so well early in 2024, even at the red plate. And then he gets hurt. Not bad enough to not race at Glendale, but bad enough to not race at the level he wanted. So that's just an example. One of the most durable guys, a guy we've seen hit the ground hard and get back up many times, had a hand injury in Glendale. So the question here is, that weekend off, is that enough to get him back to where he was before that when he had the red plate? What do you think?
I think you'll see a marked improvement. For him to be able to go out there and run around inside the top 10, you know, you could tell he had lost some grip strength. He wasn't able to ride with the same intensity. But for him to salvage the season, as long as there wasn't anything broken that was going to get significantly worse over the break, and I don't believe that's what we're looking at, I expect to see him much better in Arlington. Now, is that good enough to win? Is that good enough to be on the podium? That's what we'll find out when that gate does drop on Saturday night. But I do expect to see a much more competitive Chase Sexton. And when you think about this race in Arlington, it has been so pivotal in championships in the past. You think about the battles that Ken Roczen and Cooper Webb have gone through. And honestly, Cooper Webb has broken, like you opened the show with, he has broken Ken Roczen's heart at this very race. And one of the reasons why is he can utilize a lot of the strengths that he has. He can cut under. The track's a lot softer than what we saw in Glendale. He can get underneath Ken Roczen like you're seeing right there. And this is one of the battles for the ages. And it really, to me, kind of defined that championship and why you saw Cooper Webb able to walk away with it. And oh, don't forget, this track has been one of the races where we've seen Eli Tomac really struggle. Some of the weirdest, strangest, most question-raising rides we've ever seen from Eli Tomac have happened at this very venue in Arlington.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up because Cooper Webb starts every year super duper underrated. I bet you right now if you quiz people and said, can Cooper Webb just straight up beat Jet Lawrence? Webb's ridden well this year, but I still don't know if people are convinced to that level. But in 2019, if you quizzed all the fans coming through the turnstiles at that stadium and said, is Cooper Webb better than Ken Roczen and Eli Tomac? I think everyone besides Cooper's mom and dad would have said, dude, he's good, but he's not Roczen Tomac level. Well, Tomac had a terrible race. And like we said, he broke Roczen's heart, and that really broke everyone for the championship. So I just think about how badly does Cooper Webb want to do that same thing to Jet Lawrence now like he did to Ken Roczen 5 years earlier. Not just win, say with a whole shot, but do it in that heartbreaking fashion late in the race. That's what Webb specializes in. This could be, as you said, a really pivotal round. I'm looking forward to it. And then we'll go to the track map now. You can only change the Dallas-Arlington layout so much as a football stadium. It's not going to be the same as 2019, but just take us through it. And this is going to be familiar turf for a lot of these riders.
Yeah, the first thing that jumped off the page to me was the start. And it's the exact same setup that we saw in Detroit. And that doesn't mean we'll see the same events occur, that first turn pileup in the 250 main event, but it is a difficult one for riders to navigate. And the one thing I would say, and you'll see riders really pushing in the heat races, the starting gate position is going to be critical, because when trouble occurs, it always pushes wide, right? Bad things push wide, you end up off the track and onto the concrete, and guys go down. So watch for that same dynamic. And that's why you saw Cooper Webb so frustrated with his heat race crash in Detroit, because he knew he needed to get to that inside in the starting gates. So I think the rest of the racetrack is a very prototypical Supercross layout. The start is going to be uber critical, and watch for those gate positions to be more important than ever. And speaking of important, this race has a special meaning to a lot of people. Being one of the military appreciation races, for me, I love to see the creativity. I also love the salute to service that everybody kind of leans into. But I just think there's so much to look for. Each team has their own kind of look. That Honda HRC always, to me, goes above and beyond. They get really creative and just different looks each year. But to me, this is one of the ways that we can really just kind of send a nod to all these people who are dedicating their lives to keeping us safe. So for me, huge event, great event to be a part of, and one of the most fun events of the Supercross series as well.
Yeah, I love it as well. So I'm going to put in a request here. The KTM group, the Austrian companies, they never get in on this with their bikes. So KTM, Husqvarna, Gas, the gear, certainly the TLD gear, we know how creative they get. Alpine Stars, Thor, the gear companies do great with their riders. But besides like a cursory American flag at Redbud, maybe like one time, I've very rarely seen these brands get in on it. They didn't do anything at the 50th anniversary at San Diego. So that is my request. Could you please do something? Just put like a military logo on the front fender or something. Have you noticed this, JT?
Yeah, and I think they're so there to win. And everything else to me seems like it's a distraction, or they're not interested other than winning. And that's something that goes back years as part of this program. You talk to Roger DeCosta, you talk to people around that program. If they're not winning, it's not good enough. So of course, I think they want to be involved and they love everything about it, but winning is their primary goal. That's all they're there to do. Everything else takes away from the focus on winning. So I've spent a lot of my time in Europe around Germany, Austria racing, and they reward excellence and they reward winning. I don't know if the two things are correlated, but it may just be if they're not there to win and it doesn't have anything to do with making them go faster on the racetrack, they're just going to step away from it.
Hey, I just thought of this. Yes, they didn't have retro graphics in the bikes at San Diego, but then Aaron Plessinger won. I'm sure they weren't upset at all about how that night played out.
Yeah, winning seems to make everything feel a little bit better, and you can kind of overlook maybe a miss here and there.
All right, everyone, we are on to Arlington, Texas. Let's show you how to watch Race Day Live at 1:30 Eastern, and then we're going to bring back the pre-race show that we had at Anaheim 1. So although racing starts at 7 Eastern, tune in a half hour early for the pre-race show at 6:30 East, hosted by Katie Osborne, and we will bring Justin Brayton to the set.
Hi folks, Lee Diffie from NBC Sports here. If you truly enjoyed what you just watched, you can get more news, interviews, and highlights by subscribing to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube page. You can get it all, so go for it.